Good afternoon, Mr. Sims and the ICC board. My name is Laura Kerr, and this is Caleb Langdon, and we're with the Langdon & Kerr consulting firm. It is an honor to be advising the ICC Executive Board regarding the issue of the International Energy Conservation Code and the development process and voting.
As soon as your board contracted with our firm for this consultation, we began our in-house research process. We had phone conversations with Bill Fay of the Energy Efficiency Codes Coalition, Carolyn Burnt of the National League of Cities, and Kim Cheslak of the New Buildings Institute.
After these conversations, we decided to conduct a more in-depth analysis of all 207 public comment letters that were submitted by stakeholders regarding the switch to the ANSI standard. Through this analysis, we gathered that 52 of these letters were in favor of the change to the ANSI standards process, 143 opposed this change, and 12 of the letters were unclear with their standings on this change. Due to this research, we have decided that the best path forward for the International Code Council is to return the IECC to a modified version of the governmental consensus process, what we are calling the redesigned GCP. We will start with our financial reasoning behind the decision to switch to the redesigned GCP.
An important goal of the ICC, and especially the IECC, is cost reduction. There are two primary approaches to cost reduction: short-term, which is often achieved with less strict codes, and long-term, which is best achieved with progressive codes.
Benefits of reducing short-term costs include making housing initially accessible for low-income families and keeping construction costs low. Additionally, a significant advantage of pursuing a cost reduction strategy focused on the short-term costs is that it will result in codes that few ICC members will contest, as neither private enterprise nor governmental members will generally take issue with these short-term cost savings. These short-term cost reduction strategies are far from trivial. However, we believe that reducing the long-term costs is even more important.
Long-term cost reduction is even more crucial for low-income families. A progressive energy code can significantly reduce the electricity bills that families face every month and save the average family over $2,200 over the life cycle of their home. In our conversation with Bill Fay, he brought to our attention the fact that unexpectedly high energy bills were a leading cause of home foreclosures.
This was exactly the case for Leanne Shellberg in Fort Collins, Colorado, when a journalist from Inside Energy told her story in 2016. Although economists say that utilities should account for approximately 6% of a household's budget, unexpected peak energy costs caused by heating during the winter months were taking up to 15% of her budget and causing her to face constant worry about her electricity being shut off.
Long-term cost optimization is what can make the ICC truly indispensable as an organization in the fight against carbon emissions. The reduction of carbon emissions and the approach towards more sustainable housing is the only responsible path forward. A short-term outlook is easy, but a long-term outlook is necessary. Multiple organizations published a cost-effectiveness analysis report of the 2021 IECC. 3 significant reports were released by the Department of Energy, the NAHB, and the EECC. In an attempt to avoid bias, we will present what we consider to be the most objective cost-effectiveness analysis, that prepared for the DOE by Pacific Northwest National Laboratory.
Pacific Northwest concluded that the 2021 IECC was a success in all major categories, allowing homeowners to benefit financially. These codes were shown to generate average life cycle cost savings of $2,254, a simple payback period of 10.09 years, and 4 years to achieve positive cash flow in all climate zones. Next, we will discuss the legal implications of this process change. One potential legal concern for the ICC's members is the litigation that builders may face after the construction of a new home. If their work is not deemed sufficient to protect home against changes in future weather patterns, they may be embroiled in lawsuits that, even if won, will result in large costs.
Another legal issue that the new standards process may face was brought to our attention through our email correspondence with ASME Director of Research, Stephen Ferguson. His concern was that the ICC risks violating the ANSI essential requirements by duplicating pre-existing standards.
Our last potential legal concern with the new standards process that your organization adopted is the false representation of the IECC as an ANSI accredited standard, when this is not actually the case. Kim Cheslak informed us that although the ICC is an ANSI accredited institution, this does not necessarily pass on to their individual codes, and it does not include the IECC. We can then consider the exact same issue from our last major perspective, ethicality.
Through our conversation with Kim Cheslak, we learned that the new process allows bias to enter the appeals considerations. She said that there is no third-party method of appeal. If, at the end, something goes awry, anyone can appeal to the ICC, but there is not an appeal that can be made to ANSI. As an ANSI-like process, the ICC maintains full control to dismiss or otherwise deal with an appeal however they see fit.
Another major ethical consideration is the lack of engagement that the new process holds for the majority of these stakeholders. During the 2021 original governmental voting process, 2,261 voters were incorporated. This wide array of voices is now being replaced with 2 committees with a grand total of only 93 voters.
The ICC ultimately has an ethical responsibility to homebuyers. When the ICC allows builders to block changes to the IECC that would have a positive long-term effect only in an attempt to keep short-term costs low, they are violating this moral responsibility. As Adam Smith said in his lesser-known work, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, the wise and virtuous man is at all times willing that his own private interest should be sacrificed to the public interest of his own particular order or society.
Lastly, we must emphasize an essential and largely ethical component of any ICC development process: transparency. After the NAHB secret deal, there were many concerns addressed to the ICC. Specifically, the Department of Energy and the Congressional Energy Committee requested from your board the release of the Memorandum of Understanding from this secret deal. Although this MOU was eventually released in response to the congressional request, we believe that the extended secrecy and reluctant distribution of this deal borders on the unethical. From the Langton & Kerr consulting firm, here are our final recommendations for you.
We strongly recommend that the MOU with the NAHB be formally released to the general public, and in the future, we recommend that all publicly relevant agreements and contracts be formally published within 12 months of their finalization.
We are keeping the general format of the original governmental consensus process with some key modifications. We'll retain the commercial and residential energy committees formed from the new standards process to serve during the committee action hearings, allowing industry representatives such as the NAHB to still have an important voice.
To address the concerns like those mentioned by the leading builders of America during their appeal following the 2021 code cycle, we have also made changes to the online voting process. It is important that the governmental voter registration deadline be moved up to allow time for a list of all voting members to be drafted and released in a timely manner. Additionally, to avoid uninformed voting, all online voters will have to read a written summary of the committee action hearing recommendations and sign an affidavit to that effect before submitting their vote.
Utilizing our redesigned GCP will produce efficient codes that can achieve long-term cost reduction and ultimately keep electricity bills low for families just like the Shellbergs. In the future, these efficient codes will also forward the fight against carbon emissions with the urgency expected by both the stakeholders of the ICC and the general public. By maintaining the progressive codes that your organization has been lauded for in the past, the ICC can guarantee its permanent relevance for the years to come.
We sincerely hope that the strategies we've presented here will be both actionable and helpful for the ICC.
We have faith in your board's commitment to do the right thing, and we're excited to see what the future holds for the International Code Council.